Hi, everybody. Recruiting Animal here. You know, I've been putting all these videos on YouTube now. As Michael G. Cox knows, I give him acknowledgement. In fact, I was wondering something, Michael G. Cox. Should we start calling you maybe MG? Maybe, I don't know what we should call you now that you're showing us your rear end. Okay. MG. Sometimes I'm going to call him MG. Anyway, if you want to, if you want to watch all the videos from the Recruiting Animal Show,
you're doing it on Twitter too, huh? Well, you're publicizing it or sharing it to Twitter.
I'm sharing them on Twitter. I said that already. Don't drag it out, this ad for myself, okay? Or us, okay? Because
Animal doesn't feel comfortable talking about himself.
Anyway, go to
unbelievable.
recruitinganimalshow.com. Recruitinganimalshow.com. I got to tell you, I looked at them. I find them, they're fun, except the one that I did with the sorcerer guy. Okay, I won't go into that, but man, that was embarrassing.
Who's the sorcerer guy?
Jonathan Kidder. You and Jonathan, you were talking about his Chrome extension, and I didn't get it. Okay, and I think I've used something like that 10 years ago already. But look, you know, the show's on. I'm recording, and I'm just blabbing away there. We got a guest today, an old friend. This is his first time on the video on the Zoom show, okay? Yeah. But he's been on before. Bryan, and that's Bryan. I'm right about that? See, he's got to be different. I don't like those Y's in Bryan. And Dyer, Dyer. Bryan Dyer. Now, he was just telling us, you don't have a domain name, do you, Bryan?
Nope, I do not.
Okay, just MG, Michael G. Cox has thesalesrecruiter.com, just so everybody knows.
I've got several, dude.
Well, that's the most important one, and that's
the best one that I went with.
Okay.
Now my startup company Journey does have a domain.
What's Journey?
It's a career
I was
in
just
education.
wearing my Journey shirt, by the way.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nice. Yeah.
What is it?
It's a career and education readiness platform that allows that empowers the individual to really take control of their job and education search. So
okay, that's for job hunters. What's the domain name?
www.journey.yourjourney.co.
Okay, your journey, you got to think about it, looking at the ceiling. And you know what? I got to tell you something. The internet has been around for 30 years. You don't have to say www anymore. Or maybe for your audience, you do, okay? But not for our semi-sophisticated audience. And as usual, I'm bloviating and blathering for the first 5 or 10 minutes of the show. Let me ask you a question.
We should delete all of that.
No, maybe, okay. But
delete the warm-up.
Yeah, the warm-up. Okay, this is what we were talking about before I pressed the record button, and I don't know if he's going to do it the way I like, but Bryan Dyer
Probably not.
Bryan Dyer was just telling us why he's kind of a unique bird in the recruiting world. Going to tell us again why? What's so good about you?
I wouldn't say it's what's good about me. It's just unique. Those are two different things: quality and perspective. It's all based on perspective. So I'm a disabled veteran. I'm bald, beautiful, and you know, I love diversity and inclusion. And I learned diversity and inclusion through my military experience, and and I fell in love with recruiting and helping people.
Okay, here's what's going to be. I'm going to say is what's unique in the discussions on Facebook about diversity and inclusion. You, as opposed to most other people, you refer to veterans and disabled people and some other people that are not usually mentioned either. But you just mentioned that you're disabled, you're a veteran, and so those things are on your mind. That's part of your perspective. When most other people talk about diversity, that's not what they're thinking of. Am I right?
Absolutely. Right? There's identifiable, and there's transparent. There's opaque.
Okay. Absolutely. But I think there are people, several in the D&I community, or those that speak of the D&I community quite often have their preferred categories.
Yeah. For instance, I saw a job for a chief diversity officer, and it said you must be a person of color, and you
Yep.
must have connections with historical Black colleges. By the way, I am Hispanic and disabled and a military veteran. And so I'm 3 out of 5. And guess what? Military veterans are the only category that is actually by law, by statutory law, has to create a number, has to have a percentage for a company. Nobody else does. So you don't have to have, 10% of your staff be persons of color, gender, LGBTQ plus. Those are just really attractive things because they're easy, because we have LinkedIn, we have job boards, and you can kind of.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Okay. I asked you 5 minutes ago what's
Wow.
unique about you. Okay. And you're
Damn, I was right there. I was right there. I was about to hit my props.
you're delivering
But
an HR.
People don't often consider military being one of those things.
I already gave him credit for that, but now he's delivering an HR.
Nobody wants.
He's delivering a lecture to an HR audience who I'm not speaking to. Okay.
This is not an HR audience. Let's get that shit straight.
But let me actually, now that I recall, okay, I had to create these thumbnails for the videos on YouTube, and sometimes it was hard to get them. So do me a favor, lean into the camera so your face is nice and big. Lean in, okay, and smile, okay? Smile like you're having lots of fun. No, not like that. Like, hey, this is great. I love it, okay? Say something like, it's wild, okay?
This is the wildest thing I've ever done.
Okay, there you go. Okay, cheese. I should have said say cheese. It's boring. Okay. Here's the thing. Okay, you say that you can speak extemporaneously about new tools. Okay, and so one of the things that you like was called Eightfold AI. What is that? What's Eightfold AI? Is it an ATS?
It's not an ATS. It buckles onto your ATS, your current application tracking system, and it's more of a CRM. Candidate relationship management, but it has a full end-to-end spectrum of a great user experience. It's a phenomenal program that's built by 2 ex-Googlers and an HR staff.
What's so special about it? Can you say it briefly?
Yeah, sure. It provides
a better. Up, okay. Be a little more excited to be here, okay? Will you?
I'm trying. That hat's distracting.
Rich Rosen says he's like a god on this show. He's like becoming one. Soon we'll have to debunk him. Okay, but here's the thing. He says that he deliberately puts energy when he calls someone up. He's an energetic guy.
I have your coffee.
I want you to do that on this show. Just add a little energy, okay? Not the HR laid back attitude. Give it some, hey, I love Eightfold AI.
Hey, if anybody's listening right now that's going to be a future guest, just run a rail of Coke about an inch thick. You'll be good for the show.
That would work too.
Okay, will you mail that out to me? Like, I mean, that'd be cool. Yeah, so Eightfold is an awesome company. They've been around 3 or 4 years, 6 years, and they buckle onto your ATS. They make it a better seamless experience for the candidate along with the recruiter, and they do everything from recruitment marketing all the way to helping incorporate better inclusionary practices on the back end.
You said. Okay, I'm going to.
And I don't work for them. What are you trying to get out of this? I just like the tool.
Well, you said you can talk about tools, so that's a tool you actually mentioned. Why shouldn't we all know about it? That's what you're here for, to share good info. Okay?
I did my 15-second pitch. That was it.
But let me add something else. Okay, you said with ATSs, applicant tracking systems, the most important thing about them is their integration into your HR system. The rest is just a pretty Excel spreadsheet and a nice website, okay? So that seems to be what you like about this Eightfold AI. It integrates well with your other software. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
That is correct. Michael G. Cox, do you have anything are you familiar with this?
No,
you should ask a leading question and not just give me a yes or no question. So I'll add on to that most ATSs are built around the HR system, the HCM, the module. So you think about your HRIS drives most HCMs like Workday, Taleo, SuccessFactors, and iCIMS, and then they build an applicant tracking system on the back end to bolt on. So what's different about Eightfold and the new breed of talent acquisition, or ATSs, is that they don't do that. They actually build it around the recruiter, the sourcer, and the candidate experience. Then they buckle it on to the Excel spreadsheet in the background. So a little bit different, it's a different way of skinning the cat. You just do it backwards.
I'm not going to press this. I don't want to go into tangents, but I try to teach people not to show us their ceiling when they're on a show. Okay. Thank you.
That's hilarious.
Okay. Here's what else.
That's a nice fan. It's a nice fan. I like that.
Here's what else you said. Okay. You said, I really like the tier 3 ATSs. What does that mean?
I've kind of categorized them from the ones that I used 10 years ago, like the Toleos of the world, that were built not for the recruiter in mind. They were built to manage HR information, all the way up to the greenhouses of the world, the levers of the world that have an easy apply, but they also are very easy to use for the recruiter.
You lost me. I don't understand what you're talking about. You said you're Hispanic. Okay. You're not, what do you wear? If you go to an interview, do you wear a lanyard, a sign that says, hey, you know what? My name's Dyer, but I'm Hispanic. Okay. Just so you know.
It's pronounced Dyer.
I only speak 7 words of Spanish, so let's not try to delve
how
too
do you let
deeply
them
into
know
that.
that you qualify? Because that you're suggesting before
you
that
don't.
this is.
You don't.
I don't know about that. If you're right.
I mean,
or I don't know if that's smart of you.
so if you really want to, I guess you could. I mean, it would be nice to be able to say that, but during the application process,
I didn't force it. You told us you qualify on 3 counts, and that was one of them as a diverse person. So I mean, I think you'd want to say that to a hiring manager, but okay, maybe not.
If anybody's savvy in the recruiting process, they can see during my application, I click on the EOC part that everybody has to click on, but recruiters don't ever use that, so that information.
Okay, well, moving on. Okay, you said
that's boring.
This surprised me. Okay, you said
anything over 5 words, man.
Probably. You said
know your audience at all times. Right?
You said you like group interviews. Okay, I really like group interviews. They're fun, exciting, and a great opportunity to know how people interact. I always thought group interviews, first of all, I don't know if you're talking about a panel interview. What is it? It seems ludicrous to me if you have more than one candidate there. What are you referring to?
This isn't like an OnlyFans type of experience. We're talking about the military's been doing this for 200 years.
What is it? What's a group interview?
A group interview. It's a panel interview there.
Okay, so only one candidate, but 5 interviewers. Is that right?
3 interviewers, from different backgrounds, different
experiences. Kind of intimidating? Doesn't that make the candidate nervous? Everybody says, "Oh, don't have an interrogation." It's like you're at a tribunal. Isn't that threatening?
Maybe, but I want somebody who can. If I have a high-level job and I want them to be able to survive a little and have a little bit of composure. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Okay, so how does it show you how people interact more than a one-on-one interview?
Because you can bounce off questions so I compare it to dating. You go on a date with a person and then you guys sit down at dinner, and if it's awkward, it's 2 hours of awkward conversation, right? Over dinner. But most people, we're social animals. We want to go hang out with people. That's why you have 3 people on this call, and it's not just you bloviating.
It could be just me. Okay. Michael G. Cox isn't contributing. What do you think about that? The group interview, Michael G. Cox.
He was showing us his fan. That was cool.
And earlier, my ass. I really have had really bad experiences with group interviews. So I've always done sales recruiting. That's been the bulk of my experience. And when I was on the corporate side, every now and again, I'd have a sales manager or whatever VP that wanted to do a panel interview. So the problems that I have with it are scheduling. Is an issue. It's usually one of the hardest things about recruiting is trying to get everybody lined up. So now we've got it pushed out a week and a half because everybody that has to be there and has to have a voice in this selection, they're not available at the same times. So we've pushed things out another week and a half. And by the way, that's not working very well these days. Number two, there's only going to be one manager responsible for this person's success, leading this individual within the organization, and yet everybody else gets a say. And so the ownership is often confused in this. And so then you have four individuals that aren't on the same page, not asking the correct questions, sometimes inappropriate questions in front of others. And from a candidate perspective, we're trying to grease the skids and get people through a process as quickly as possible. And they already have several hoops that they're jumping through. A phone screen, if they applied, they have an application. A phone screen with somebody else. Come in for an interview, come in for another interview, and then come in for a final group interview where now you've got 3 or 5 individuals or sometimes more stepping in and having all these rando conversations going on at the same time.
Okay, let me start. I let you ramble on there. I let you go on.
I've decided in explaining this, I hate group interviews.
Okay, well, here's the thing. I've had that experience as well with the scheduling. I mean, they can be rushing you. This is we're in a demand situation for this very specialized person. You find that person, then you have trouble getting those 3 bozos in to the meeting. Okay, that's a real problem. The second thing is, though, you said you've got these, you've only got one hiring manager that the person is going to report to, and you've got these other extraneous people. They're not so extraneous. Bryan,
no, they are.
No, wait, because lots of times.
Let's say the extraneous individual is a VP of sales, okay? And we're interviewing for an individual contributor. There's a sales manager who's ultimately responsible for the guy's success, and you have a VP of sales who suddenly has a bigger vote, but is never really going to manage.
Who says he's got
individual.
A bigger vote? Here's
because of the title. My VP of sales didn't like him. You think I'm going to stick my neck out on the line for this guy? You were, until that guy piped up and said, didn't like the guy's tie.
Okay. What about this idea, though? This person, the new hire, reports to the hiring manager, but she has to get along with the other people on the team. So the hiring manager.
That's called being a human.
The hiring manager wants their input as well. The other thing.
Why? If it's your responsibility to hire, you got 2 things to do in your life: hire and manage. And you can't do one of those well on your own.
Okay. You know what? He's wrong about that. Okay.
So we did disagree fundamentally on that. So one,
and that's okay.
One, MCOX, that process is flawed because it has too many interview cycles in it.
Absolutely.
So
that's another issue aside from the panel interview.
And most organizations don't have all of their ducks in a row.
I agree. We're just looking at ideal scenarios, and it's not always ideal for introverts to be in a panel interview. I like panel interviews because I get to know who I'm going to work for, who I'm going to work with, and if there is an actual culture fit. You don't get that when you have 4 of the same interviews because people don't know how to interview. That's where the crux of the problem lies.
That's another thing, Bryan. Yeah, this guy, the recruiter, Michael G. Cox, is supposed to coach these people. Okay, now we had the guy.
What time as a sales recruiter? What time does he have to go?
No, even when I was on the inside, I did that, and I had the time to put together a proper interviewing tool that had an interview that was success focused. I had another interview that was behavioral focused. I had another one that was another focus, and we bring that all together, and we should be done. Oh no, but let's go ahead and do something a little different. Bring him in for a ride along. So now you want an individual to come in for 2 to 4 hours with the promise of getting a gig on the back end of that.
Pay them for that 2 to 4 hours.
Here's something else you didn't mention, Bryan.
Good luck with that.
It's supposedly a panel interviews. you've got to have the same questions for all the people, and they've got to grade those questions, right?
Mhm.
They've got a list, and they all grade them. And then you compare the grading to the
That would be
exact same,
nice.
the
Yes.
exact same
Which
question.
is why I like Greenhouse, because you can actually rate and weigh your and Eightfold AI as well. You can weight your interview questionnaires, and each hiring manager gets the same thing, and then it comes up and it gives you like, hey, this person just signed this, and it's 1 to 5, it's 1, 3, and 5. No 2 and 4. We don't want 2 and 4. 2 and 4 is bullshit.
Okay. Now, it's funny you brought them up, because I was just going to refer to Danny Chait, the CEO there. He was a great guest on the Recruiting Animal Show a few years ago. He said he was going to come back on and talk about sales, but I think his communication manager hates me, and he's refused to come on again, because I know she was.
I could kind of see that. Yeah. I mean.
No. I gave a great interview for him. I've got the recording. It's one of the best I've ever had. Okay, but because he's a very good guest and he's thought about a lot of things clearly, and I did a great interview. Okay, but the thing is, I saw her. Sometimes people say hateful things about me on Twitter, and she was liking every one of them. Okay, so I figure that's a hint that things aren't 100% pro animal there. But he said that the corporate recruiting is a shambles.
I'm suspect of anybody that's liking the stuff you're posting.
Okay, yeah, with your style, you're in it. Okay, so he said corporate recruiting is a shambles, and what happens is the candidate comes in, and at the last minute, without any warning, they haul in a bunch of team members to do separate interviews. They don't have lists of questions. They don't know what they're doing, and it's a wreck. So, but with the panel interview, it does allow you to coordinate it more.
So
okay?
let me give you an experience that I had about a month.
To coordinate it more.
So give me a minute and a half. Let me tell you about my own experience last month. So last month,
mute yourself. Recruiting animal.
Yeah. Okay. Who's pushing people around today? You're the tough guy today, Michael G. Cox. Just let me tell you the feedback I'm getting from you.
Thank you, Michael G. Cox. I appreciate that. Recruiting animal on mute. Thank you. So I got a minute and a half to tell you my experience. So
go.
Dream company. I was referred in by 2 people that I had referred them to this dream company. They made me go through not just 3 phone screenings, but then 6 phone screenings.
That's the problem with.
And it took 5.5 weeks for me to do it. And they got back to me every Friday afternoon and said, "Hey, hiring manager's out of town. We'll get back to you." Now, I did a cost analysis of this, because they actually said, "Hey, we're really interested, but we want to bring you in for another 4 interviews. Same position, different hiring manager. Same job, nothing changed." Now, in that process, I said, no, I'm not doing 10 interviews. I'm just not going to do it, because I spend 1 to 4 hours per interview. I frame narratives. I build big, wide scopes of like, hey, what kind of questions can they ask?
You forgot to mention something. I know this story, okay?
I thought you were on
mute. I do my research. Okay, here, you had 2 other offers on the go at the same time. Am I right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, recruiting's hot.
Did they
Yes,
know?
it's hot.
Absolutely. I told them
and they
initially.
Still dragged this out. Are they mentally ill? They're going to lose someone who they thought was worth giving. Sorry, is that bad to say mentally ill today? Okay.
Yeah.
They knew they had a candidate they liked, or else they wouldn't be wasting all this expensive time with you. And yet they knew you were under time pressure. What's going on in their minds? Are they crazy?
No, they're
egos.
Yes, everybody has.
I think even to be a little bit more specific, yes, it's egos, but they are putting process above outcome. So the process is more important than the outcome.
Yeah.
And by the way, I did a cost analysis of it over 2 bottles of wine, because I was so pissed at the scenario.
Did you include the cost of the wine?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and all the subsequent wine that came afterwards, because it was my dream. It was my dream company, and ended up being about $14,000 that was spent on both sides, and time wasted.
And
time
you took
spent.
the other offer because you just couldn't wait any longer. Is that right?
Hell yeah, I'm happy. Yeah. And it's funny, I sent it over to my guy at the employee resource group for that company, and he sent it up to one of the partners, and one of the partners actually asked if I wanted to come onto his team. I'm not a management consultant. I don't want to do that shit. I mean, I would. It'd be kind of fun, but at the same time, he was like, this was really well done, and I'm sorry you had this experience. And
Well,
it was kind of,
wait a second. Wait a second. I have a question. So I told you I had a bad experience. I recruited someone who was like so unique in this country. Don't forget.
you're recruiting out of the yellow pages. You've had a lot of unique experiences.
Okay, she was unique, and she just happened to be in this part of the country, one day, and they couldn't get those three people together to interview her on the same day. And it was just this process over outcome. She had what they needed. She was interested. There weren't that many people, right? She was here for one day. Okay. They couldn't get it together. You've got a situation where they had somebody they liked. And they wouldn't move any faster. Let's say I was a recruiter for that job. I introduced you to that company. Okay.
Mhm.
What could I have done? Anything? If they're saying, like Michael G. Cox said, they're obsessed with the process. They got blinkers
I actually said
on.
process.
So I'll tell you what was really interesting is that this company believes like they're unique snowflakes. They have these like very, very like they're just on the leading edge. And that's what they sell to their clients as management consultants is, hey, we do things so differently. And we have this whole iterative framework that we use, and we build stuff and it's cool. And to be honest, they let the process drive it because it was recruiting. It was like junior recruiter, senior recruiter, recruiting
Didn't
manager.
answer my question. You're not answering my question.
I'm getting there. You calm down real quick. Sorry, I don't ever tell women to calm down, so my bad.
You're in trouble for that, not with me either.
Go
ahead.
But yeah, so they just went up the chain of command, and nobody wanted to make a decision. And that's really where the problem lies.
No,
is that
you didn't answer the
perhaps-
question. Ernie will swear by it. He's
analysis.
been listening. The question I asked is, I'm the recruiter. I took you in there. I know it's a fantastic fit. I know they love you. I know you love them. Your dream job. Okay.
Mhm.
But they won't move fast enough. I'm going to lose you to some other company. What could I do?
So
Anything?
not moving fast enough is not the problem. Not making a decision is the real problem. They don't allow their leaders to
What could I do? That's
you can't
the
do
question.
anything. You can't do anything. You're a recruiter, man. We're transactional beast. We just pump paper against the wall and hopefully something comes out of it.
You can't tell them, hey, you're going to lose this guy. Okay.
You can tell them, but what good is it going to do? I really don't think that, just like we're talking about management consultants, probably the biggest problem or headache, but also business development for somebody that works in management recruiting is that we went in there, we called their baby ugly, we gave them the solution to make their baby pretty, and they didn't put that stuff into practice. Now you've got an external recruiter or internal that says you're placing process over this, and you're not keeping candidate experience in mind. You're more focused about yourself rather than the individual that you're trying to attract to your organization.
Hmm.
They're not going to give you the time of day to say it. And number two, if you did get your point across, they're not going to pay attention to it.
Ernie.
In the old days, it was, why do you want to come work for us?
Yeah.
Everybody would have to answer that question.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays is why you should come work for us.
Huh?
And you got to recruit the candidate to you. It's not the other way around anymore.
Okay.
And what these guys are still doing is they're stuck in the old ways.
Fine. How do you change that? Michael G. Cox says you can't.
I've never had success in changing it. I've told people, hey, this guy has an offer right now. He needs to know within a week. Can you do something? And they go, no, we have our process, and that's what we're going to do.
Okay. Next question.
Let me answer.
Oh, hold on.
I have like a legitimate answer for this.
Bryan,
you hire somebody that sees outside of knows how to color outside the box. Like you hire someone like me to change culture from within, who comes in and says, hey, this process, 10 interviews is a waste of time because there's data that.
What's happened? Okay, here's the question. He's cut himself off. Here's the question. if you've got this experience, I'm so happy. I'm saying, geez, I found the perfect guy for this client. They should be patting me on the back. And then they refuse to do what they have to do to hire him. Okay. My solution is don't work with them anymore. You've looked into the abyss. Don't say, okay, I'll find somebody else after I lose a Bryan. Bryan, am I right about that? Don't work with
100%. 100%. That's
I've
why.
got
That's
this
why.
Karen here telling me how to speak all the time. Okay.
There's a big company out there. It might be the largest company in the world that just sent somebody into orbit that I will never ever interview with. I will never do work with because their process is, frankly, it's horrendous, and it's a terrible candidate experience. So
you're hurt?
I'm a little hurt inside.
Yeah. Aren't we all? Okay. We've all got that wound, especially recruiters.
Recruiters are just wounded. We're wounded warriors. We got scars.
The thing is, this is a black and white issue, and it happens a lot. You've got these dummies who say they want one thing and they won't do what's necessary to get them. Ernie, did you agree with me that if you presented Bryan, they didn't hire him? Okay, you wouldn't work with them anymore. Am I right?
I wouldn't work with them, but if I needed clients, it would be like, if I had 10 clients, it'd be my 10th client.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'd listen to them. I'd want to know a little bit about what they're looking for in their next search, but I'm not really excited about working for them.
Okay.
And I will
So
stay
you put them on job boards?
Yeah, I mean, you just here's the person. I don't really give a damn whether you talk to him or not, but if I make a placement with him by luck, then cool, let's do it. But for the most part, I'm not going to be excited about going
okay,
after
we got
you.
the point. I'm going to do the ad for Ernie. Ernie is foodindustryrecruiter.com. Ernie doesn't. I'm putting all the shows on Twitter, and Ernie doesn't have a Twitter address. So even though you're in the shows, I can't. I put your name, but it's not linked. Okay.
I will try to find one, and then I'm going to get a phone too.
Okay.
I'm going to get on the internet.
Use Food Industry Recruiter, because that's how I've pegged you into those. We got thesalesrecruiter.com. That's Michael G. Cox. Give us the URL for Journey again, Bryan.
Yourjourney.co.
Yourjourney.com. That's his side hustle.
.co.
That's his side hustle. Okay, that's not your regular job.
I'm a hustler, baby.
You know what? That could keep us off of Facebook. If I try to post this stuff, they recognize a hint of a tune and they say you're out. So Sony Music won't allow it. Okay, so there you go. And that might happen on YouTube as well. So just watch out. Okay, Bryan, you said something. I don't know. And then you said you're just kidding. You said, "Oh, I'm just kidding." I don't know if you were. You said, what does tech recruiter mean? Okay. You said, I think it means nothing at all. Recruiting is recruiting. Give me a list of questions to ask, and I ask them. Then I cheer for my company and slide the offer across the table. Did you mean it, or was that tongue in cheek? Because lots of people would say that's true.
Did you say that like 4 years ago?
Yeah.
What difference does it make?
There's
I've slept since then.
Yeah, I had a few drinks since then. Yeah, I agree with that.
You do? You back that up?
So my former manager, during my grad school application, he said that one of my best skill sets was walking into a room, meeting interesting people, and finding skills and opportunities within those people and connecting them. So what he was actually talking about is I have a connector trait, and that is what a good recruiter is able to do. With that being said, there is something to be said about understanding front end, back end, and full stack, but those things can be learned. Those are things that
don't use idioms with me, okay? What you're saying that a generalist recruiter, you don't really need a niche in order to be good. That's what you're saying.
It's helpful because you have an ingrained market, but you can learn things. People can learn things. I, 2.5 years ago, decided to become a CEO of a startup. I didn't know what I was doing. Sometimes I still don't know what I'm doing, but I've learned along the way different things. I've acquired different skill sets. That is the nature of, any profession, is that you learn new
you're
things.
losing me. Okay, a famous recruiter, friend of ours, used to be a regular on this show. He said this about culture. He said to candidates, while you sit on the couch waiting for the right culture to pique your interest, the world is passing you by. In other words, culture's not that important. Is that true or false, Brian?
Depends on what type of culture you have. If you have a bunch of white dudes patting each other on the butt and sexually harassing people, that's a pretty bad culture to have, don't you think? But then, is a culture really that important?
Well, when you have a
the average-
candidate, let me ask you, when you have a candidate, you have a checklist of things that you try and a checklist of cultural traits in the company you're recruiting for and try to match them up very clearly. Not one recruiter I've ever spoken to has that, okay?
Oh, I could care less about it. Right now, you have about an 18-month lifespan on entry to mid-level employees. So building a culture is really about, hey, are they going to have a good experience? Is our onboarding experience going to be great? Do they have career opportunity and mobility? And most companies haven't solved for onboarding and mobility.
Everything else is extraneous. Is that what you're saying?
100%, yeah.
What's a good onboarding experience?
Day 1 and day 30.
Well,
day 1, I know, I'm getting there. Telling you, giving you a milestone.
This is a show where you don't take your time to get there, okay? You get there. That's the culture. I'll read it to you right off the paper.
Well, that's why I come on here every 18 months.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, shoot.
So
takes his time.
Takes his time. So day 1, is that onboarding experience good? Does that person get to meet their hiring manager, their team? Do they have everything set up, or do they have to wait 3 days to get a laptop? Day 30, does a recruiter check in on them? Hey, how'd it go? Does the HR team check in? Hey, how'd it go? Tell us more about it. How can we improve on it? Did you enjoy your experience? Day 90, does that person know what they're supposed to be doing? Do they have their jobs, or do they have the job requirements?
You wait 3 months to find out if they know what they're doing?
Yeah, it takes time to onboard.
Okay.
That sounds like a process.
And if you after 30 days, you call up the candidate and the new hire, and you say, "Do you like it?" What if she says, "No, I'm not happy here"? What do you do?
Hang on till the 90th day.
Don't spend the money.
No, he's internal. He's internal.
He's internal. Yeah, I get it.
I'll come to us. I'll come to you guys. What?
Post online.
So you don't go to the manager. You don't run interference. You don't run over to the manager and say, "What are you doing with 100%. My hire?"
So that's why I'm different. I actually would run interference, and I'd be like, "Hey, I think we have somebody that is yellow tagged.
Somebody at risk."
Yeah, that's an at-risk person. Like I go back to my experience as a medic. You triage based on proximity and who can get back into the battle, and that's it. And so that's.
You were a medic in the Army?
Navy with the Marine Corps. Yeah.
Yeah. Hold on. So somebody like that who's under fire. You were under fire. Am I right?
Sure.
Do you have special techniques to stay calm? Let's say you're dealing with somebody on the phone in a recruiting situation, and sometimes these candidates, you really want that person, but she's abusive. She's been called by a number of people. They're bugging her, but you want to talk to her. Are you just normally a kind of relaxed person who's, it's hard to get him agitated, or do you have techniques that you were learned in the military in order to stay calm under fire?
It's called Valium.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, we deal with that all the time. I don't take any offense. Like, people are making big decisions when they're changing their jobs, when they're moving to a new company. There's social capital they're losing. They have to restart.
Do you have a special, like when they made you a medic, did they check your psychology to say, yeah, he can handle it?
No, they basically put me in the fire and said, can you handle it? And
yes.
Your battle buddy beside you, that's the person you take care of. You don't worry about the bullets coming at you. You worry about
not saying that the military doesn't do those tests, but ultimately it's a trial by fire, and they're hoping that you break before they put you in the shit.
They also we also go to boot camp, and boot camp is breaking you down. You learn composure, you learn how to get yelled at, you learn how to deal with stress and chaos. So our brains are at that age are pretty
aren't
flexible.
military soldiers and sailors known for going out on the weekend and getting drunk and fighting with each other for no reason at all? I mean, that's not composure. Put that to the side.
If we're a fucking knob.
Hold on a second. I want to talk to Ernie. Okay, Ernie, you call up the candidate. I want to know when do you wait 30 days to see if things are going well? You call her up, and let's say she says, just like I said, I'm not happy here, Ernie. What do you do?
I don't call it the candidate so much as I call it the hiring manager and see how they're doing. And if the hiring manager tells me the guy's doing great, that's good enough for me. If the hiring manager tells me I'm not too happy, then we got to figure out what makes him happy.
What do you do? Give me an example. You must have, since you seem to think, you know.
I talked to one guy and he says, well, he's leaving early. He's showing up late. You go back up to him and say, bro, this is what's going down. This is what I'm hearing. Can you fix it?
I've had trouble doing that. I had that situation just recently. It gets really awkward for me when I'm having to go back to the candidate that I'm not managing in their process anymore, but I spent like the last 2 months or whatever working with that individual very close over the phone and email and a lot of text messages. So I might be able to step back in and say, hey man, just between you and I, here's what I heard. And I'm really hoping.
Yeah, but isn't that something that the manager should be approaching this person with herself? Yes. I mean, Ernie, don't you say
the manager should, but they don't. I mean, it's like even asking the basic question: do the managers know how to interview? A lot of them don't know how to interview, and you have to go back to the basics and train them and talk to them. But it's really about creating that relationship with the hiring manager and whoever's going to interview. But for the most part, when you start talking to the candidate all the time, I think it's like too many cooks in the kitchen. You got to kind of back away, let them do their job, stay in touch with the company, see what else is going on.
Let me ask another question before I forget. Okay, so you said specifically the example you gave was
excellent interviewer.
Yeah. Well, look, this guy, Brian's been on the show twice before. I didn't know he was a veteran. Maybe I did hear about it and forgot, but I was shocked when he said
he was telling you, you thought of another great question and said, hold that thought until never. Yeah. And then we'll get back to it. I got another question.
Ernie, you specifically raised the issue. The person is coming in late, going home early. When you're dealing with an experienced person, no recruiter actually asks that, do they? Say, hey, look.
No, you don't. You ask a hiring manager, how's he doing?
No. Before when you're interviewing them, hey, are you going to come in on time? Are you going to go home early or what?
Those are just set expectations. He's also in food and beverage, which notoriously doesn't have the greatest. It has a transient.
He's not in food and beverage. He's in food manufacturing.
Food manufacturing.
Food manufacturing. Well, he still deals with some of the same problems.
You got to also understand that we talked to him for about 30 minutes tops. We send them in. They talk to him all freaking day. Sometimes days, like Bryan was having his interview. And then at the end, they want us to figure out whether or not, why isn't this guy a fit? Well, hell, you talked to him face to face. Should we be
asking people who are 35 years old and have been working for 12 years, should we be asking them, do you come in late ever? Do you go home early all the time? Should we be asking them, Bryan, those questions?
Are these your best questions?
Obviously, you could lose a lot of money because they don't. Ernie gave us a real life example. I assume he's talking about something that really happened to him, right? Maybe more than once.
Yeah. No, there's a set expectations of being an adult, showing up on time.
That's a lot of assumption.
But when you work with salary, it's like there's not a set time to come in. There's not a set time to leave. Your salary. I want you to work on Saturdays. Plant goes down Saturday night. You're here Saturday night. Are you that type of person, or do you say no? I don't want to.
You ask them that. That makes sense. Okay, in an industrial situation.
So that's a great scenario. That actually matches.
When
that's
you
a great question for that scenario.
Absolutely. Here's the thing, though.
If you don't put context on it, it's a terrible. Will you show up? Will you not?
Or you can insert it into the context of the culture that you're trying to convey. Sure. Look, I don't know everything about this organization, but I do know they hold these certain things, these certain behaviors very high on their list of wants and needs for this position.
And that's a subtle way. When you work in manufacturing, you're working 24/7.
Yeah, but hold on. I like the Michael G. Cox, put the idea out there without asking them directly. He says, this is what's important to them. But then do you follow up with, can you buy into that, pal? Do you say
Are
that?
you good with this? Or are we just,
Okay.
Well, I mean,
Blowing smoke?
in this very gray and nuanced question, we're allowing them to answer us back? Like, that response is where recruiting comes into play, because we're measuring their response and their commitment versus a tangible question, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's a quickie. Somebody said, it's a
Your eyes
transition
went in the back of
question.
your head.
It's a transition question. Somebody said, no way am I going to keep my work email on my phone. And if they want to give me a special phone, I'll put it on there, but I'm turning it off at 5 o'clock. Okay.
Yeah, sounds like
Yeah.
they work
Okay, he's
in
laughing. You've
Europe.
got to reply to that. What's your story, Bryan?
I don't have any clients in Europe.
Damn, you're going back like 4 years, man. Like, man, that's rough. I gotta get rid of my social media. Yeah.
No, you didn't say that. A woman said it this week. Okay.
Oh, I said it like 3 years ago. Yeah. So I don't like I don't like BYOD, bring your own device.
Yeah.
Because I don't actually believe that there is like a firewall, because I know IT hasn't been able to get me like connected with my my laptop and my network and VPN. So I can't imagine that they're able to have the subtlety and nuance to be able to protect my private information, which has single sign-on, from my personal information, my professional information.
You're taking it in an interesting direction, but not that interesting. It's not the question I asked, okay? The question I asked is, are you going to allow work to invade your personal space? That's her issue.
That's not your question. You didn't even answer. Okay.
That's what it was meant to
That's
be.
what he meant to say. That's what he meant to say, Bryan.
As recruiters, that is expected. We are sales and marketing for the company. We just sell human capital. Ooh, I don't like that phraseology, but we sell human capital, and we sell the company and person relationships. So yes, we need to be outside of the 8 to 5 structured 40-hour work week. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because other people were saying, hey, if something happens, I want to be connected, right? I don't want people have to wait for me till tomorrow. And you're one of those, you agree with that. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
it just depends on what you want to do, what your next step, what your career is, and where you want to take it. I mean, you could be a supervisor, have yourself available like 24/7, or you could be, but if you're a VP and you don't do that, you ain't going anywhere. You ain't staying in that position very long.
Somebody actually, I'm glad I wrote this down, had an interesting take on it. She said having her work email on her phone actually allows her to have more work-life balance. She said, I can take my dog to the vet, or go to the grocery store, or watch my kids' soccer practice during the day while still being connected to my work. And I don't have to log on after hours to get
Very
that
North
stuff.
American way to look at it. Yes.
I like that.
I do too. When I worked in sales, I used to sell into IBM globally, and sorry to those that are perhaps in France listening. Nobody's listening really, but
when you
just in case.
I think my mom's the only one listening. Okay.
I never got anybody
Dyer,
in France to answer their phone.
Okay. Well, because they're on 4 weeks vacation all through August. Is that?
No, it's not. It's not just that. It's also before 10 a.m. and after 3 p.m. and during most of the hours between 10 and 3. They were impossible to get a hold of.
They're out rioting in the streets. They're throwing bricks at the cops.
2010. This was 2000.
What has France actually done in the last, like, by industry wise?
No, nothing.
Have they sent anybody into space? No.
They've got nuclear weapons. They've got the Airbus. Okay, we just don't hear about it because we got all the American propaganda. They don't sell
submarines anymore. That's for sure. So, hey,
wait a second. Oh, wait a sec. I want to talk.
He liked that one. He liked.
I want to talk to. This is the culture of the show. We appreciate people, and I want to talk to Mrs. Dyer. Okay, you should be proud of your son. Okay, he's holding his own here. I just want you to know, and he's up against two tough guys who also claim to be Hispanic. By the way, okay.
Here's my issue with maybe cultures that think that there should be a very clear separation between work and life, and there isn't, in my opinion. They tend to blend, and it's almost like a seesaw. It's not balanced. It's just sometimes work requires this, sometimes life requires this, and that's fine. But what I don't like is the complete separation of the two, because, and I'm just using my French former coworkers as an example, I was never able to get a hold of them to share information. This is how you sell. This is the pricing structure, all of that. But they were the first in line when I had sold something globally and they wanted to know if I had sold anything into their territory in France.
Yeah. Okay.
Then I didn't answer their call.
Okay. Wow. He's giving a big endorsement to in 2002, he was
No, it
calling
was
French.
just the
He
IBM
was
team
calling
in
French
France
fries
at
Liberty
Gartner
fries.
from
Okay.
2000 to 2005.
He changed the name of French fries after those experiences to Liberty fries. Okay. Remember that? Anybody? Okay.
I thought they were freedom fries.
Freedom fries.
Oh, okay. They were
Liberty
fries.
fries.
Those were ridiculous.
Okay, Bryan, it's time's going fast. We started out slow, but it's picked up a lot, and I'm enjoying it, but we've only got 9 minutes left. Is there something that you want to raise that we haven't talked about yet? Because I got tons of questions written down.
Yeah,
Anything?
absolutely.
What is it?
Offer transparency. Why aren't we, like, compensation structures are out there, like people can find out what salary guides are, what I can expect to make. There's a lot of different websites that are out there, like Blind and Glassdoor and Comparably and all this other stuff. Why isn't, and I love Comparably, by the way, great company.
Why? Tell us why. What's Comparably? Tell us.
Well, it's competition to Glassdoor, but the CEO really actually truly believes in salary transparency, which I do as well, because it would make my life easier if I knew that person was already prepared beforehand before we started talking about it. And that way we could actually even out the pay equity gap that is out there.
So how do they know about the salary before you start talking to them? Is it in the ad, or is that how do they know?
But I mean, if they've done the research, you can get a range. It's not that difficult to do. Okay. So with that being said, why aren't we more open up? It reminds me of going to the doctor. I went to a doctor last year after a cancer scare, and after I got, like, I didn't know how much it was going to cost. I didn't know anything about. There's no transparency around pricing. And I see the same thing in the recruiting space when we're talking about offers. Like, most people are like, oh yeah, I make 75 now. And it's like, oh yeah, we're budgeted at 125. I don't get any benefit of the doubt in trying to help them, but like, I just gave an offer to somebody that was a 30% increase over what they were making. If they had been a little more savvy, if they had understood where to find the information, maybe they would have been more competitive in their actual real life salary wise.
You mean before they came to you? Before they came to you in their other job? Okay.
I'm just fucking saying. I helped this person. I had no need to do so, but it's the right thing to do, because if we're budgeting for that, and that's what we see the.
Let me ask you. This is a burning question for me. We're on a good topic. Okay. Nobody. I was talking to Lara Lawson. It sounds like she does this. Okay, and I appreciate it. So that's why I'm mentioning her name. Okay. Almost nobody that I've ever spoken to on this show actually will tell a candidate the max of the range. If the range is 170 to 190, they'll say, we're looking at 180. And the idea is there that if the candidate really likes the job, the company likes the candidate, but the candidate wants a little more at the last minute, they've got room to move up, right? But they never tell the full range. Well, you know what? The range is 170 to 190. It depends how qualified you are, because everybody believes that the candidate is going to be fixated on the top end. Okay.
I've always told you that I share that up front.
I share that information up front. If it's 80 to 120, I tell you, hey, we're going to go with the
80
third
to
quintile.
120.
And then I explain that, hey, we'll probably bring you in 95 to 105 because it gives us room to give you merit-based increases just in case we can't promote you. Like, that is why you don't go to the top, and that's why you don't go to the bottom. This isn't a race to the bottom. It's a race to give fair and equitable pay, and that's transparent.
Okay,
so
but you told them that the top is 200, and then you're quite willing to come in at less than that and have them say, well, how come you didn't give me the top?
Well, if they want to get merit-based increases, you're not supposed to go to the top. Like, why do you want to go to the top every single time? Like,
well, why is there?
Because most jobs are with a taxonomy. So there's this taxonomy behind it that says, oh, you're a 1, a 2, a 3 by skill set and maturity in that space. Well, with that comes pay that's equitable to that. So you never want to go to the top, because it means that we're either going to have to promote you, and if we can't afford to promote you, or the position doesn't require that, then the job infrastructure breaks. So
Okay, hold
that's
on. Let
fine.
me ask something. Ernie, is Michael G. Cox pulling my leg when he says that he's always said that he gives the top end? Because I don't remember it, and I surely would if he said it as many times as he claims.
He says he
Look,
gives. He
once
says he
you
he gives
review
a
my
range.
my
That
tweets from
question's addressed
4
to me,
years
Michael.
ago, you'll find it.
Are you actually paying
Hey.
Michael G. Cox to do this?
Yeah.
No, it's a range you give them, and it's a range you get. But
No,
as you're
Ernie,
talking,
that's not an answer. Do you
Wait,
tell
let me
them
fi-
it's
let me
180 to
finish.
200?
But
Yeah.
I don't give them the range. I go after what they're making, and I ask what their salary expectations
You're
are.
not okay.
And that's basically it.
Well, what if they say? What if
Because
you call
according to
someone? Oh, well, there's not
what
much
Bryan
time.
is saying,
I gotta
is
cut through
absolutely
the. I
right.
gotta cut through the blather. There's not much time. What if you say, "Hey, I've got this job. I saw you got your background. It's great. I'd like to talk to you about it. How much, Ernie? How much? What do you say?
I say, well, what are your salary expectations? And then
You
this,
tell.
and
No, you tell me if you want to talk to me. Don't
so
waste
then
my
I'll say,
time.
okay, you want something? I'll say, okay, it's 90,000. And then you go, oh, that's too low. That's too high. I go, then what do you say? What do you, then you take it from there? That's where the discussion
he's not
goes.
transparent. He doesn't give a full. He
No,
doesn't.
he is. He's just negotiating up front. He's creating
You know,
context
but
for
what I'm trying to do is what Bryan
giving an
is,
accurate offer.
but
Mhm.
what I'm trying to do is what Bryan is saying. If they say we'll go up to 125, that is fine. But then you got to go back to the hiring manager saying, is that the hiring? Is that the range? Because if it is, you got to give some room there at the end. You cannot
like-
just jump in.
Animal, it's like going on a date. You don't want to show all of your goodies, but you want to give a little bit of a glimpse into the future. Okay.
So I do it a little differently than what Bryan has done. I will tell them the exact range. I'll say, so look, you're looking at about 100 to 145 or 150. Let's say that's the range. Remember, what did I say first? 100. For you to max out on this offer, you're going to have to be pretty damn close to that already. You're also going to have to show how you can do everything top notch, ranked above all others, 5 gold stars in every category that is highlighted in the JD that I'm going to send you. And you have to provide proof that you can walk on water.
You're a tough cookie. Doesn't he sound like he's talking to his kids about their allowance?
If they tell you
they don't get an allowance.
If they tell you above the range, do you submit them anyway? Michael?
No, look, if we can't come to an agreement that you have to fall within this range.
It depends.
You have to fall within this range. If we can't come,
but this
you guys
is
are talking about
this is a top-notch guy that you found.
You guys are coming from agency. I'm coming from corporate. I've been on agency and corporate. From corporate side, if this person is the right fit and the company structure isn't completely formalized and structured in a way where you can't go above that, and there's flexibility, 5K is not going to be. You can do sign-on bonuses. You can do hybrid compensation models. Like, you don't lose talent for $5,000. You lose talent for.
But you also look at the size of the company.
I mean, look, Ernie, then I would go back to the company and say, I've got a guy, he's 5 stars across the top, but you can't afford him right now. He's at 150, or you're up to 150. That's what you told me. I'm not trying to drive anything up for you, but this individual is currently above that and would need to be at 175 to move. If you want, with that in mind, and I'm going to remind you of this several times, I can send you this candidate, but I don't want to spring this on you and it's going to shock you a week later when you're in final interviews that you couldn't afford this guy. So do you want to move forward?
By the way, where's the data coming from? The market values of that position. So like you've really it's a nuanced thing. You can't just like black and white, give a range, go for it. I like what Ernie does. He plays a little courtship game with it. That's fine. I like being a little more transparent up front because I don't want to waste the pre-screening time with something that's 40% above what we're going to pay. It's never going to happen. So but different strokes for different folks.
As you submit them, you should also, from our side, as you submit them, you should also tell them what their salary expectations are. And I'm talking about with your email to the hiring manager. This is what the guy wants. Do you want to talk to him? Here's his resume. Does he look pretty to you? Because this is what this guy costs.
Okay.
They all look pretty to someone.
Well, Michael G. Cox is in such a scolding mood today. I kind of like it. I mean, it's
It
direct.
suits the show.
Yeah, it does.
It's,
Okay,
it's a show.
time's up. I mean, I enjoyed it, and we're just getting into a topic that I find really interesting. You know,
Me
because
too.
You can go over and cut off the first 10 minutes.
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
true.
I don't
Yeah.
have to cut. I don't. Do you have time, Brian, to stay on a little longer, or another 5
Yeah.
minutes? Or?
If
Let's-
Brian doesn't want to, that's okay also.
Okay,
Let's
well,
play.
maybe
Let's play.
maybe we're wound down.
Brian wants to stay.
Brian wants to stay. It's getting good.
Does anyone else have anything to do? I'm opening it up. Clang just came for it so we could promote his product at the end of his show. Does anybody
There's
else?
all the stuff. There's no stuff above him.
Let me
behind
ask
him.
one thing there. He said Brian came on bragging. Mrs. Dyer, I wanted your son brags a bit. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? But he's bragging that he's
I call it
transparent.
humble bragging. I call it
Yeah,
humble
he's
bragging.
he's
You do it. You
transparent.
do it daily. Like
He's
that's narcissism.
He's transparent about salary, but you don't endorse putting the money in the ad if there's an ad. Did you say that?
What?
If
Do you put the
an
money in the ad?
you put the salary in the ad.
I mean, in Colorado, you have to. You know.
Oh, okay. Is that
I
where
think.
you are?
I think. Well, I used to live there, but yeah, I mean, I think that that's going to be the wave of the future because pay equity is such a hot button issue right now because of this whole women make 72 cents to a man's dollar, which is some.
You know, I
factual.
got to tell you something. Those figures.
I'm not jumping on. I'm not jumping on that mine. Nope.
Okay,
we're not
then we
doing
won't
it.
go
Not
there. Well,
doing it.
Clang, he disappeared. I'll say what his thing is in anyway. Okay, here he is again.
Nope.
Okay, Ivan, do you have anything you want to say about salary transparency?
Not
You
really.
can say
I mean,
no.
there's
Okay,
it's
fine.
too much individual. I actually do it if it's like really like you put it in the ad if it's like so specific and it's like a really good salary or very specific, or I know that I'm gonna get like 100 billion responses. So to make the responses lower, I actually put the band in for roles where the volume of answers will be extremely high. Why? Because like if I put the band in, then some people will self-select not to answer to the request, right? So
Okay, but the key question is here, when someone says, how much is this position paying? Do you tell them the minimum as well as the maximum?
yes, I think so. I'm like quite different than Rich. I'm like too much talk. I mean, I'm disclosing it so much, if maybe too much. I don't know.
Okay,
I
well,
like,
that's
I
what
like
we've
your
been
style.
deciding.
I like your style.
Okay.
Remember, we're doing God's work. We're helping people
Yeah,
find
we're
new
doing God's work.
opportunities.
Okay. Well, you did it when you got that
It's true.
candidate more money. Okay. Anyway,
That's
I'm going to
it.
wrap up. Okay. So Journey.
Oh, by the way, she was a female, and I just increased her life expectancy or her life, the amount of money she'll make in her life by over probably about $500,000. So
Great.
that's
Well done,
okay.
sir.
that's why I'm braggadocious. So
Yeah. Okay. No, well,
That's
that's
you're
good.
welcome.
Okay. Well, I like the way you've calculated it into so much more money. Okay. So it's
It's going to take
speculation,
her
but
300 years to get to
yeah.
that. but
Okay.
that's-
Yeah. Okay. So you are,
That's
you
an
can, hey,
annuity for
everybody,
you.
you can see he's not looking for a job right now, but he's a smart guy, a good corporate recruiter whom you might consider in the future you'd like to hire. But in the meantime,
Right.
he's also got a side business advising candidates, okay? And it's called yourjourney.co. Am I right about that?
That's
Was I
correct.
listening? I am. I'm right. Michael
Oh,
G.
and
Cox.
2 weeks it's going to be on iPhone. It'll be an app on your iPhone, and it'll be on the Google Play Store.
Okay.
Come back
Okay.
on. We'll talk about it.
Yeah,
All
you can
right,
call me at
let's
any
do
time.
it.
We'll promote it. Okay, Michael G. Cox, thesalesrecruiter.com. Ernie Marino, food industry recruiter, and he's going to make food industry recruiter.
Ernesto Moreno.
He's going to make food industry recruiter his
That's so
Twitter
good.
address in the future, so I can acknowledge him. And I have been acknowledging Ivan Gulenko, who as at Klang, KLANG.SO, he created his own applicant tracking system that he wants to sell to you. And I have a tool that I want to recommend. I got it from Ivan, and it's called Linktree, LINK tr.ee. It's the last part, EE. And they used to have a lot of these. You just it's free. You put a whole list of all your links there. I think you might want to take a look at that. I think I posted it already. Yeah, Linktree. I like
Post
it.
again.
I
Hey,
put it up for the
Ivan, I want to see your ATS. We may be looking at moving over to a new one, so we're doing maybe an RFP. So let's talk.
Klang, KLANG.SO. Hey, everybody, just lean into the camera and wave for me, okay? So I have good thumbnails, okay? Yeah, you know, peace signs. Hey, he's a peace sign. He was in the military. Thanks, Bryan. It was great having you. Bye-bye.
Pura vida.